So I was just making sure that everything was covered from the legal point, from the admin point, from everything. So I wasn't still over the business development side, but I have like a great leader then, and he told me like, I think you could do this. But I was super scared about it, just thinking about quota, just thinking like about getting into sales, doing cold calls, and coming back to that part that I had already experienced during college. So after a lot of thought, I started like seeing that part growing in me. So I wanted to send that email to that prospect. I started.
Hello, listeners, watchers, fans, and subscribers of the SDR DiscoCall Show. You may be asking, what is this all about? So there's a world of sales, and there's also the world of tech sales, where there are sales professionals. And basically what happens is people are buying from people that trust and know them. And what we like to do is find out who are these people that work in this world, especially around the world of business development and sales development. And my name is Bhuiyan, your host. My job is to go find cool and interesting people like we have with the guest today to kind of understand their story and help inspire you if you're working in the world of sales, but also if you're thinking about coming into the world of sales. So if you're listening to this in your local podcast platform, please make sure that you give us a rating, subscribe, and like. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel to help with the algorithm, it'd be really helpful if you could also like, comment, and subscribe down below. So this guest is somebody that I would call a sales bestie and a sales friend. We've been following each other on social for a while. We've had the opportunity to meet each other online. And obviously your boy Neil always is looking for guests. And when this person said they'd be happy to come on board, I was over the moon. So without further ado, guest, could you please introduce yourself? Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Neil, for also the intro. My name is Inês Bastos. I'm based over Lisbon, Portugal. I work as a business manager over KCS IT. KCS IT is basically a technology consulting company. We most help our clients with IT outsourcing and also the nearshore service side. And my role is totally enrolled with 360 recruitment. So I do from business development to account manager to customer success and also recruitment part. Yeah.
I love that. And thank you for the introduction. Inez, and whereabouts in the world are you based again?
I'm based over Lisbon.
In Lisbon, in Portugal. So, bom dia, Inês. Thank you so much. And with, obviously, you do a hell of a lot. It's kind of like a 360 role right there, right? But within the business, who would be the typical type of people that would come for your services?
Yeah, so I'm all based about IT folks, and typically those IT which have a leadership role. That could be the senior engineering manager, the CTO, the IT director. So typically this ICP is more related with them wanting help in regards to their team. They are having trouble having someone, they are having trouble with budget, and we help having that person there.
I love that. And shouts out to the IT crowd
Yeah,
locked in for this. I love it. And obviously, I know that you're a very active person. You've got a really beautiful, colorful life, as I've seen on the socials. But outside of sales, Inez, what do you like to get up to? What are your passions, hobbies, and interests?
So I'm all about activity. So right now I'm doing a lot of things. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing horse riding, paddle, boxing classes. I'm trying new ones even. So I'm all about this part. Besides that, I'm super passionate about sales. So I spend a lot of my time just listening to podcasts, courses, coaching, everything on that. I'm also passionate about finances and personal development. So I try reading some books, investments, and those things. They're also on my side. And then we got the other part, the traveling part, hanging with friends, family, which is also a big part for me. Yeah.
As listeners, audience, watchers, as I said, this person is like a ball of energy. Like, you're really active, you do a lot of things, and it's, really inspirational. Like, as we check each other on the gram, and I saw horse riding like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wow, what's the story with horse riding?
Yeah, so horse riding, like when I was a little girl, I took some classes, but I was too early over it. Mostly about my father, because it was like, oh, okay, everyone needs to know how to ride. And I never understood that actually. And last year I just took it back. So I started again. I'm right now like doing the old thing. And I think it's one of the best ways like for mind, because there are so much thing. There is the horse, there are the foot, the legs. You need so much like the concentration side.
Yeah.
And you know that sales sometimes can be a little bit more overloaded and everything. And having this side, I think horse riding is like the best when it comes to that. It's impossible to think about sales and horse riding over the same pace. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had a few friends that own horses or do horse riding. The amount of like control that you have to have whilst you're with your steer, and again, I'm not a horse expert here, but you know, like body control, like core control. Obviously, if the animal gets scared or something like that, that's really dangerous. If you're on the wrong side of a horse, that could be also fatal as well. So yeah, that's better you than me.
I would say it's all about the mind, you know? So I feel like horse riding brings things to my life that helps me also easing my mind, you know, because over there, I got to think about the risk. I got to think about how I put my leg, my arm and everything. And life is something about that, you know, also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%. I got like total respect for that. And again, like gym activities, traveling, all that, you're living life to the full. So I love seeing this, Inez. So like coming back to the world of sales and professionalism, like what I like to do at this point for our regular listeners, watchers, as you know, we go to our guests' LinkedIn profile to check them out. And also to mention that Inez's LinkedIn profile will be within the show notes. So if you want to connect with her, pick her brain on any of the topics that we've discussed today, or if you're that IT pro and you need some help, you know where to go. But also Inez shares a lot of great content on LinkedIn, so I highly recommend giving her a follow as well. But you've had a very extensive career, you know, an element of like consulting, like with sales as well. But if we go like way back in the day, like if we go to where you was an SDR at Isaac, and there's a little bit of a story there, but you've been a brand ambassador, you've also worked at ShareUp as a chief trainer, KPMG, one of the big dogs out there as well. But obviously working at KCS IT, I've had to get to learn to say that quite a few times, KCS IT in the last few years. But we'd love to know, Inez, like if we go way back to the beginning, like tell us your story of like, how did Inez get into sales and how did you get to where you are today?
So I think I started during college. So I was taking economics and I realized that economics was pretty general. So I thought, okay, let's go to university. Let's have the best grades possible, everything, but let's also make other things, extra ones. So I started like taking jobs, being over junior companies, participating in everything. And I took like the chance to experience like HR, IT, sales, finance. And I took that over my sales side. I think over the time I didn't have like the itch for sales, because I was selling like phones. I was selling coffee. I even sold that. I was selling volunteer experience. And I think I didn't like it much because it was too pushy, you know, it was just like, oh, we are great over this. You need to buy this. And I was thinking, okay, sales might not be for me. So when I finished college, I already tried all of those things, but I didn't still feel confident about what should be my path through, you know. So I thought, let's start with consulting part. Consulting is pretty general. I can try everything. And I started over a Big Four, over a tax part. And I started to realizing during my days that my favorite part was meeting clients, doing proposals, talking with them. And I started thinking, okay, I will have to stay here for years and years just to do the sales part, you know, and just to talk with clients part. When you are more junior, it would be just about documentation and more like in terms of admin tasks. So I thought, okay, let's change it up. But by this time, I wasn't still comfort to say that I would like to move to sales part. So what I did was move into operations part. That was already within KCS IT. And our operations part is a little different from the others. So obviously we have ops, we have all the things that involves the other finance part, the admin area, the legal area, but we also got the customer success part. So I started liking just taking client calls, understanding what they were happy about, what they weren't happy. Within my industry, our product is really related with our talent quality. By the end, the person that is representing us is the consultant that we put through. So I was just making sure that everything was covered from the legal point, from the admin point, from everything. So I wasn't still over the business development side, but I had like a great leader then, and he told me like, I think you could do this, but I was super scared about it. Just thinking about quota, just thinking like about getting into sales, doing cold calls, and coming back to that part that I had already experienced during college. So after a lot of thought, I started like seeing that part growing in me. So I wanted to like to send that email to that prospect. I started wanting to take that cold call and taking more and more and more. And that led me to being a business manager. So that's where I am since almost 2 years now. And basically my role is a 360. So that comes with business development side. So we are talking about searching my ICP, getting to that persona, cold calling, multi-channel, everything also, getting them to actually sit with you and having that meeting. And then obviously the process goes on with them having some type of needs that we might help through. After that part, I will do the account manager, the customer success part. And on the other side, I also got the person that I have placed there. So I help them like with career management, with that side also when it comes to IT part. So yeah, that has been my journey. I think I started to realizing that I was just scared of being over sales and taking that cold call. And I think overall it was just really a fear of rejection. And right now, I won't say that I am already rejection bulletproof, but I am over 90 something percent. And I think that sales is what I really enjoy, you know, so I'm closer like to feeling my purpose and understanding what I really like. And I haven't stopped here. So I took some further steps like into coaching, in courses, in participating over LinkedIn and taking group coaching sessions. So I'm always trying like to learn new things. Okay, if you are handling this the best way, let's check others. Let's check other people, how they are doing outside of this. So yeah, I'm all about sales right now.
I love that. And you know, that's an awesome journey and story that you've gone through. And there are so many things I'd like to unpack, right?
Yeah.
So like if we kind of go way back in the day where, you know, in like college days, you're trying different things. So you're selling volunteering stuff, you're doing sort of coffee stuff, and something within you, Inez, didn't like this pushy sales thing. But also, I would love to learn more about the pushy sales thing. But I can also hear this thing where Inez likes being around people and interacting with people. And again, we'll come to the consulting part after this, but what was it about the pushy thing that was like making your vibes think like, I'm not sure about this? And how did that translate with talking and working with people? And what was that experience going through your mind back then?
Yeah, I think it was more about like, I didn't spend much time like knowing those pains and even seeing if that person needed my service. You know, I just should say like the key features, we are the best in this, we do this the best, you would win this. So it was just about me, nothing about you, you know? And right now, most of my calls, they are just about my prospect and my client and their needs and not about me. And I was feeling like I didn't get the other person's side, you know? I was just talking and talking, and it could be a person or like a wall. I was just talking, you know? And I think what I didn't like was that, because it came to a point where I just had that rejection, like, no, we are not interested. And like, I didn't have much margin to even understand why, because I didn't know over first part if they even needed, there was even a pain about it. And I think that part's really like, I didn't feel good because I like the sensation of feeling like helping and I can really help. And I didn't got that feeling over my first part. Yeah.
I hear that. And thank you for sharing that. And I think kind of what I'm hearing here is, you know, where it felt like a very transactional type of sell. This is what we have. This is what you should buy. and it's trying to push that upon them. And I think, working with a lot of SDRs and salespeople, when we're inspecting their discovery calls or listening back to the cold calls, and I'm just like getting them to try and evaluate what's happening in that conversation. And they said, well, I did the process right. I shared the pricing list. I did this. And I was like, yeah, it's all about you. Like okay. And then someone will say, okay, so we'll listen back to the recording. And I say, okay, so what did you say? And I said, well, I said this, this, this. And I said, okay, what did the prospect say? I didn't listen to what actually they told me something else and I wasn't listening. I was just trying to go for that. So I get that kind of vibe of being transactional. So coming now onto that arching of so there's reasons why I'm asking this question, because again, for somebody that didn't go to university and got kicked out of my education at a younger age, I have met a lot of people that have become SDRs, but they've gone to do internships at Deloitte, McKinsey, the Big Fours, and some of them have thought about maybe pursuing a career and working in a consulting business, right? And I've found, Inez, that a lot of SDRs that have gone through that experience did actually very well in sales because they had a consultative approach. So they were trying to understand the customer's challenges or, the bottlenecks happening. And obviously they're trying to analyze and figure out how can they improve efficiencies. They were really good at that stuff compared to what I was, right? So they're really good at asking questions. And again, it didn't really feel salesy. It felt like a doctor where a patient comes into the surgery and they're trying to diagnose what's going on, right? So the two questions I have for you is, if somebody was considering a career in consulting, what advice would you give? And then I'll come to my next question.
Yeah, I think when you are talking about consulting, the biggest part is you gotta be solution oriented always, because it will come a lot of problem, just like sales. But I think consulting part, you really have to have that overview. There is always a solution. Even if you don't see it, let's study that and let's check. And the other thing, I think it's really just being disciplined on that. So consistency is super important. And I think that's the key difference that we see. We see a lot of people just getting off college and starting consulting part, and they are pretty good because they stay up. They probably also took that from life and also college.
Studying.
And when they got into consulting side, they start doing that. And I think that's the biggest two things mostly. And I forgot about the third one, and I think it's the important one, which is pretty much everyone not literal, okay, has to know your name. You need to start networking from junior to senior to partner or whatever. Network is the biggest important part, because if you're not finding a solution, maybe the other department has it and you already have a buddy there or something like that. So solution oriented, networking, and consistency, they are key things there.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And for our listeners and watchers out there, if that's something you're considering, here's some advice. And again, you could always reach out to Inez if you're thinking about this stuff and connect with her on LinkedIn. So the second part of the question is, all right, let me give you a quick scenario. So where I was coaching somebody earlier this week, and we were talking about having a consultative approach. They were so hung up on being new, and they're in a business which is selling a financial solution. And they said, no, I don't really know anything about finance. And I have to speak to finance directors and CFOs. And a lot of my peers are obviously excelling and going really fast and quick, and they're booking all these meetings and stuff like that. I don't have any product knowledge. And because of that, they then felt they had this element of imposter syndrome, that they were the fake amongst the professionals and all of this. And I kind of said to this guy, I said, look, there's this analogy I learned when I used to work for a company called Showpad that did sales enablement. So our job was to sell to VPs of sales and VPs of marketing. And the thing that I learned there was my VP of sales said, Neil, 80% of sellers are product experts, but 20% are industry experts. And it's the 20% of the industry experts that bring in 80% of the revenue. So I said, anybody can talk about a solution, a feature, a product, but what customers really want to know is what's happening in the industry and why are people buying or why are people changing? That's the stuff they're really interested in. So I said to this young guy, I said, if you can learn about the world of a CFO, what they get up to, what keeps them up at night, what research reports they read. So I was like saying they read white papers from McKinsey, Deloitte, the Big Fours, KPMG, all of this. This is how you can keep up to date with the industry, right? So my question to you is, how do you feel that young salespeople to become industry experts so that they're known in networking? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I totally understand that because I got a lot of imposter syndrome over the beginning part. I just want to prepare and checking things before start talking with them.
Yeah.
And I also thought, okay, I'm so young. I'm like 20 years old. I will be talking with a CFO. He has been working like for 20 years. I just have like 2 years of experience. What am I going to say? But I think that we overestimate the power of our networking. And again, it's networking because, okay, you are talking with that CEO, but you have been talking with a lot of CEOs. If not you, your company. There must be intel across that. So that's your superpower, first of all, because they don't have much access as you have to that specific part. And that is the main key. And there are typically two ways of doing that. The first one is your internal one. So check with clients that your company already has. Check if they got like a track record of those pains, of thoughts. And the other thing, and there I did it a lot, it's just LinkedIn and networking. Hey, I see that you are a CEO over this. Could we spend like 5 minutes just understanding what you are currently doing? It's just really for me to understand your role. And if you do that, I was super scared to just like texting that, but I got so many positive. I have spoke with like senior engineering manager, like 10. They just came from LinkedIn and they just give me like food for thought so I can share with other ones. So this is like the most powerful thing. And then it's fake it until you make it. You go the first time, you have those inputs, and then you start having more, and you are not faking it. You are it.
Yeah, and you know what, like I was watching, I think it was on Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO, where one of his guests were talking about the whole fake it till you make it. And I remember I had a guest like 4 years ago that said the same thing, fake it till you make it. And then somebody called it out saying you shouldn't be faking till making it. It's like, disingenuous. But then on the Stevens podcast, this lady said it's not really faking it till you're making it. It's what you're doing is you're practicing and getting ready for when it actually starts happening, right? So you're actually manifesting, you're visualizing, you're trying to assign what you're supposed to do. Because if you don't, then you won't be able to do that thing continuously. So if I relate it to music, when I first started like on the microphone at age 13, I was copying like karaoke to my favorite rappers and MCs. And I kept doing over thing. But then a lot of my friends at a young age are like, no, you've got a really good voice. You sound really good. I was like, really? But the more I kept doing it and imitating and doing it, then I figured my own flow. So it kind of gears you up. So I don't believe it's so much fake it till you're making it, but you're practicing what you're going to be doing like for a long run, right?
I believe that the person that created this information was someone trying it for the first time and just needed like that motivation to go for it. Because when we are doing something for the first time, the fear of rejection is super big, and we have like to find ways to take that rejection off, because we will probably fail. Something will happen, but as long as we are failing, we are also going for the next level. So yeah, I also agree with that. Definitely.
I love that. Thank you. And kind of like going back to this space of feeling like the imposter, or feeling like, you're speaking to these senior level people. I actually think being the new person or the newbie is a blessing. The reason being is you don't have all of the expectations of what it's supposed to be like. You come at this with a completely brand new mind. And if anything, I can remember like, as an SDR, my first job was to speak to CFOs. And what I found really cool was, well, actually what my boss and my AEs have said is like, you don't talk like or sound like a salesperson. right? You sound like a young Neil who's just very interested and very passionate. And what I used to find with, like, when I booked my meetings with the CFOs, I would hand them over to the AE. Before I handed them, I had like a really cool conversation. So here's the other things like we can teach like our audience and listeners. So I used to say to these CFOs, I'll be totally honest with you, I'm not a financial expert. I know how our platform works, right? But can I ask a quick question? They'd be like, yeah, go for it. I said, how did you become a CFO? And asking that question to a senior person or anyone in general makes them feel special.
Yeah.
And what they're very happy, like, we all love to talk about ourselves, right? This is why I have a podcast. This is why I love people talking about themselves, because this is what we do. But what they would do is just, well, you know, I started off in finance. I was doing payroll. I went to university. I was doing this. Then I went to go study AAT accounting, get a qualification, and then just all this stuff. And that's how most of my discovery calls used to start. Like, I've checked your LinkedIn, like, what's your story to becoming a CFO? And what it done was built this really nice rapport between me and the prospect. Because probably for the first time, somebody has asked them that question in a sales call. So it didn't feel like a sales call. And then typically what happened is I then handed them over to the AE. The AE had a sales conversation, but then sometimes I'd have the CFO message me. I said, Neil, we met with your AEs. They're all great, but can we just work directly with you? And I'd be like, but I'm only the SDR. I can't. Sorry, they're the ones that are managing the sales cycle. And I've had a lot of SDRs where, you know, I've coached them and trained them to get into this mindset of being the student in the room and asking your prospects all these sort of questions, right? So I think to become the industry expert, as you mentioned, is this networking, understanding people's experiences, their stories. And as I said to this guy this week, I said to him, you know, like when you're talking to these people, remember they are the expert, we're not. They are the expert because they've got the qualification, they've had the 20 years working in that industry. That's why they're the expert. What we are the expert in is what we sell, or the solution that we're providing. So try to change the mindset. But also I said to him, these people that you're talking to go home, they have family with their dinner, they eat, shit, sleep, throw up, have a life, go out on the weekends, maybe have a bit of drinking, whatever. They're just people. Just because I have a job title. They said, yeah, you're right. And I said, what would I say to you if you was to speak to a founder right now? And he said, I don't know, that'd be really scary. I said, but you're talking to one. I'm one. But I'm not scary. I'm not like all corporate and stuff. And he was like, yeah, you're right. So again, these are just, you know, people, but we can get scared. But talking about being scared, I think another thing I remember you saying is that your leader, when you were coming up, was saying, I think you'll be really good for this. And you alluded to that you were scared, right? You weren't sure. So can you walk us through what was going through young Inés's mind when the leader said, yeah, Inés, we think you'll be good for this. What was happening?
Yeah. Before that, let me just tell you that question is totally genius because you are different. You are building rapport. It's everything great. And I believe that as an SDR, you got to be like the student 100%. As you go into the account manager, you can also be a little teacher because you are already talking about service and the product, but I totally agree.
Thank you.
That. But about the fear, I was super scared just because I came from the consulting side. I switched to operations. I was liking operations. I didn't hate it or something like that. And I thought, okay, is this really what I want? And am I going like to mess up my whole career taking something that could be nothing? Or should I just keep operations and keeping that? But I had like a rule a couple of years ago, which is when I'm feeling nervous about it, but I feel that itch that I want to, I just take it.
Love that.
So I did that. And that's with everything over my life. Wherever I'm feeling nervous, like to cold calling, wherever I'm feeling nervous for the email, for the meeting, that's when I know
you just put yourself. Yeah.
And that's what I did. There was one day that it was showing me like the emails, the cold calling. I did, okay, I'm good doing that. Let's try it out. I can start doing that. And I just started, and then obviously it takes some time until you finish your first deal. And until that, you start doubting yourself. Am I saying like the wrong things? Is it me? Is it the timing? Just because I am like a full cycle sales, it comes more with that nervous part of, was it something that I did over my first cold call, over my email? What is wrong, And as you close to your first deal, all of that doubt just goes away. Okay, I did my first, let's just start. I think I can do it. And I think that the confidence then came from me repeatedly closing deals, repeatedly doing cold calls, doing emails, and right now it just feels more natural from it. But I was like, I could tell you, like my first month, I was nervous every day. I was getting anxiety every day, and
Yeah.
that's normal, and that's okay to feel like that. But when you feel like the itch, but you still want it, you gotta take it. Yeah.
I love that. Like taking that leap forward into the unknown. That's very inspirational. I can relate to that a lot. Um, because thinking back in my days of when I went for my first telesales role, I was going through a period of my life where I think there was a book I was reading. It was The Secret, right, by Rhonda Byrne, right? So if anybody ever says to me, oh, so this now we're going to go on a tangent here. But if anybody ever says to me, Neil, what business books would you recommend, or what sales books would you recommend? As some of our listeners and watchers know, I don't like reading sales books. I'll be honest with you, because if I'm not working, I don't want to be reading about work, right? But I'm about mindset. Those are the things that interest me. But I remember I was going through a point in my life where I was asking myself, I was looking at my family, I was looking at my friends, and I was looking at my future. And it was kind of that thing of, where is it that I want to go? Like, what is it that I want to do? I don't know, but I want to do things that kind of scare me a little bit. So I had this thing, and I think it was a Jim Carrey film called Yes Man. And I think I may have watched it around that time, where he's like somebody who's very, no, 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 I don't want to do this. I'm scared and scared. But it was that feeling of just saying yes to an opportunity, even if it scares the hell out of you. So going back to my telesales part, I remember when I went from finance to then working in telesales, I said in my head, I need to ask Jonathan, I want the sales job. And I could sit there procrastinating on it, but there was this thing I was like, no, Neil, just do it. And I then said, I want a sales job. And he said, okay, you've got 4 weeks. And again, that scaring feeling in my stomach was like, okay, say yes. And then when I met another recruiter for my tech startup, she says, do you want to work as an SD? I was like, yes. Do you want to go to California? Yes. And then Neil, when you're in California, Neil, do you want to come up and introduce yourself? In my head, I was like, no, not really, but yes. And it was like constantly talking my brain. But that practice over the years has helped me propel into so many cool new opportunities. That being said, also, I've said yes to things that I shouldn't have said yes to. And that's come with its own consequences. But yeah, like a real life experience. So like at the gym around the corner from my flat, I've been going there for 3 years. And there's this other lady that I always see that we always work out, but we never say hello to each other, because when you're in the gym, you're in the zone doing your own thing, right? But she said hello the other day. So I then said, hi. And that was it. And then as I walked away, I then went to the other piece of equipment. I said, no, you should have said at least hello. What's your name? So I then said, do it. Just go up and say, hi, my name's Neil. What's your name? And then a couple of days later, we said hello again. And then yesterday, whilst we're at the gym, we said, hi, good morning, Emily. Hi, Neil. How you doing? She said, can you come to a workout in the morning with me and some of the others here? And I was like, there's that old Neil again. Like, no, actually, I want to do my own workout. I don't like working out with groups at the minute, because when I come to the gym, I was like, yes, let's do it. So this morning we met up at 7:30, and there was like initially 3 of us, and then it turned into like 5 of us. But these were other people that have gone to the same gym for 3 years. We never speak to each other, but we did a workout together. We had like some healthy snacks. We took a team photo, and I was just like, isn't it so nice to like put yourself out into things that scare you, but result in a happy thing? Because sometimes it can be the best choice that you've ever made, right?
Yeah.
But the other bit, like where you're saying with your manager, they said, I think you should be good for this. So I hear this in a lot of my coaching conversations, where a rep will come in and they say, my manager's maybe putting me forward to this role, and I'm a little bit worried about it. And I kind of smile inside a little bit, because I've been the manager that said, I think you'll be good at this, Inez. I've been that person as well. And I just asked them, like, what's your fears? And it's just, well, I've been doing this. I've been going really well. I've kind of had like a really good running streak. And, I was thinking about going into that career, but now they've brought this new thing that I wasn't even thinking about. So I said, what's happened here is it's kind of blindsided you, because it was unexpected. So every time you think about doing something for the first time, that's where the doubt and everything comes in.
Yeah.
But then you question it, and then you try to rationalize it, and then you speak to somebody about it. So that's a good step. So we're on a good path here. And then I just ask them, give me like a recap of everything that's happened in the last 6 months and all the wins and happiness that you've had from your sales career. And they talk about this. And I said, okay, so being a person that's been an all-rounder, so like you, Inez, I've done SDRing, I've done management, I've done customer success, I've done closing, I've done running my own business. All of these things have helped me to become an all-round individual, so I can go in different directions. So I said, well, initially when we started coaching, you had this linear idea of SDR, then go to AE, or SDR, then go to CSM. But here is not really a step down, but it's a side step, which can then increase your, your learnings, but also, things that you could potentially achieve. And they're like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. And I said, of course you wouldn't, because you haven't been through that yet. But the point that I'm trying to get to is the other advice that I give to them is being a former manager. When I did this to reps is because I saw a potential in them that I may have not seen before. And I'm seeing this new position as a platform to maybe going in a different way, and that could perhaps make them grow even further. So I used to do this with my reps. I said, look, I know you want to be like an AE, but imagine if you go into customer success, you're still closing. So you're getting closing experience. You still have to do discovery calls when you onboard a customer. You still have to renew a customer. So you do contracts, legal, procurement, all of that good stuff, and raising a PO. So imagine if you had that experience doing the CSM thing, and then later on you go to become an AE. I said it doesn't always have to be SDR AE. It could be SDR CSM, marketing, IT, legal, and then maybe going to AE. So these are things that will enhance you. So the point, I know I've gone around about this in a long way, but I'm passionate about this, is sometimes, and to quote Les Brown, sometimes others see the potential in you before you see it in yourself, right? So like even this morning, my best friend, my sister said, oh, my boss wants to have a meeting with me. Oh, I don't know what she's going to be asking me to do again. And I said, rather than look at it as a bad thing, maybe say to yourself, I wonder what good news or opportunity they want to speak to me about. And it's just mindset.
That's sweet.
So again, I know I've kind of gone on my soapbox as per usual, Inez, but I'm curious to know, like, if there is that person where the boss comes to them and they don't know what it's about, how would you get your brain into the right frame of mind to get ready for a discussion?
Yeah, like me personally, I like to work with anticipation. So I always keep like a record if we are talking about like good things, bad things that I have done, something like that. But I'm also that person. I always think it's going to be negative. They are going to say something about it. I think you got to think, okay, you wouldn't be here if you did much things negative has the good things,
Yeah.
and that to bring like with that has like to bring a wave with that, which is there are a lot of good things, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And even if it is a bad thing, it's all good because you have achieved that and you can go up or through. So my thing right now is mostly okay, might be good, might be bad. It could be has bad. Have I done something has bad, has that? Okay, mistakes happens. I have done this good, and good. And I think it's easier for us to think about bad things than good things, but it's normal for others. I think we have to a place where it's totally normal for others seeing the potential that we are not seeing in ourselves. I would say that we should inverse that. We should like know our value before every single conversation with our boss or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think because it's something I've spoken about on socials, which is like confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is where you're searching for a particular thing because of your mood or thought process at the beginning of the day. So the example I give is you wake up in the morning, you stub your toe at the end of your bed, you're like, shit. And you say to yourself, today's going to be a bad day. That's the first thought you tell yourself. So then you walk out and then you speak to your friend or your partner and they say something about your dress, but you take it the wrong way because you're in a negative mindset. So what are they trying to say? Do I look good in this or do I look bad in this? And then you walk out of the street and you go get your bus, but then perhaps the bus has gone by and you didn't catch it because you were looking at your phone waiting for the bus information. And then you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to be late for work. My boss is going to have a go at me. This is like the third time. Then you get into work and then the boss is looking at you and you're thinking, oh shit, I know they're going to bring this up. And this is all because of our mindset of hitting that thing and saying today is going to be a bad day. But I have this practice where when I wake up in the morning, I put my 2 feet on the floor and I go, thank you, thank you. Today is going to be a good day. That's how I start my day. And then, then if you see a friend or a colleague and they said, oh, you look nice, or, you're like, oh, cool. That makes you feel good. So you think, yeah, do you know what? This is going really positive. But then you go for your bus and you still miss it, but you think, do you know what? I can just get the next one. Your mind is in a different place. You then come into work and your boss is looking at you and they said, oh, so they're here on time. That's really cool. I wonder what we're going to catch up about today. but it's just that whole mindset. And that mindset was taught to me in that book, The Secret, of how you perceive and look at stuff. So I always try to start on a positive mindset. And I even admittedly sometimes say to people when I come into a coaching session, I'm annoyingly positive to the point.
But that's better than being a negative one.
Yeah, 100%, you know. And I revel in being positive, but I also know not everything is always going to be positive. Not everything is always going to be happy. But I'm just like, you know, what's the word? It's impermanence. Life is in a constant state of flux. There are ups and there are downs. So I know when I'm really happy, I just enjoy the hell out of it. And when things aren't going great, I'm like, this isn't going to last forever, right? So just deal with it, and eventually things will become cool again, and it's up and down.
I can also jump on it, and I can also share something personal. So you already know this, but last year I lost my dad, and the whole thing of coming back to sales and my mindset and everything was really strange out of that, because I was dealing with so much pain and coming back. And I think right now the switch thing is that positive part. You can have things, we all have things going on, we all have bad things, personal or over work, but that mindset and having like good habits, there is something that I think it's the book Power of Habit talks about, the keystone habits. Yeah, which is those habits that really bring you through, like exercising, gratitude, like you are just doing with the thank you with your feet, journaling. With sales, it's more like time blocking for that cold call, following up always, having those pains in detail. And if you do those things, you are already like a step further to actually having that mindset and waking up better, and everything goes better. Because even if there is something bad, you will have like the power to just switch it into less bad.
100%. So first and foremost, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable. And as we know, my heart goes out to you.
Thanks.
And with that, and the reason I'm also grateful as well for that. So again, to open up on this show, there are no holds barred. So admittedly, my father's coming to end of life as we're going through that process. And again, thank you as well.
Yeah.
But this really affected me last year because with my dad, and I love him to pieces, we're very different people, and we didn't really see eye to eye as Neil was growing up. But it wasn't until I became a father myself that I then started to give him a bit more empathy and stuff like that. But there were a lot of times last year where I had to like either take the day off because we had to call the ambulance, or, you know, again, hopefully this doesn't trigger. But you know, going through those experiences of like working, having a podcast or doing a coaching, and then looking down at my phone and seeing dad's not well. And it's just like trying to hold yourself in that. But it happened so many times last year that it really started triggering me where I was really lucky with my sales coach, Kevin, Mark, John, and everyone out there. Love you guys a lot. I would have to tell them like, I can't work today, or I need a mental health day. I'm not with it right now. But something that genuinely really helped me, Inez, was my coaching sessions. Because obviously when people come into a Zoom, they have no idea what Neil's been doing before. They don't know what my morning's been like. They don't know what messages I've had or what I'm going through. But for that moment, they come into a Zoom and I'm like, hi, I just like put on a mask. Lovely to see you. And deep down, I'd be hurting and I'd be in a bit of a mood. But obviously, I don't want to bring that into my work.
It's all good. Don't worry.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing was where people would come into a session and say, hey, I hit President's Club. Or, hey, that sequence is now working. Or, Neil, I'm now confident in cold calling. So going through a weekend of tough news, this is one of the reasons I look forward to my Mondays. So whenever I'm having a shit time, I look forward to catching up with that salesperson. And it may not always be positive news. It can also be, you know, them saying they're having a hard time and something's personally happening in life. And as a sales coach, I'm also like a sales therapist. I allow them to unload because they sometimes say to me, the stuff I'm going through in work, I can't talk to my friends and family about because they don't work in sales, so they don't get it. And obviously somebody who's gone through trauma in other areas of my life and going through things like this, I'm able to connect with them. So there's that element, as you said at the beginning, wanting to help people. So when I go into a Monday morning and I'm like, this person's telling me about the promotion, or this person has had a cry and said, I feel so much better, thank you. I feel like I've imparted something to be there for that person. So coaching other people has helped me on a personal level to get through my tough shit. but it's also recognizing when things are not cool that it's okay to go with that. And I'm always like a big advocate for mental health. And they also say that people that have been through traumatic things tend to have a higher level of empathy, right? Because they can go through those things as well. But again, this has been beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for allowing me to share as well. This is a really cool fucking episode. It's therapeutic, right?
Yeah. It's sales, it's mindset, it's everything. It's life.
It is. And this is the point that I want to get across to if there's any sales leaders out there, right? Because as a former manager, Inês, if I had somebody who had problems in my team, like performance is low or metrics aren't being hit or targets aren't being attained, a lot of managers would initially say, like, what's the problem? They've had training, they've had onboarding, they've got peers they can be sitting around. And I used to be that type of manager. I just feel like, what the hell's wrong with you, dude? But then I used to do this thing where I'd say, Inês, I'm just going to take my sales hat off for a minute. Outside of work, are you okay? And how's life? And sometimes asking that question, you would see this instant relief on this person's face. Or they could say, something's happening at home, or I've been through a breakup, or I'm really worried about my rent because I can't afford it. I'm like, cool, let's forget about work for a minute. I'm here to listen. I may not have the answer, but I'm just going to listen. Right? So sometimes if you see something problematic with somebody at work, it may not have nothing to do about work. And again, we don't have to be the best manager. Maybe we're not comfortable having those conversations. So if there's HR or, but what I used to say to my reps was like, look, I may not know how to answer this question, but I can help with HR and speak to Linda to see if there's any sort of support, again, with bereavement and all of these sort of things. So sometimes, yeah, it's not about work. It's because what's going on in people's lives. So as a coach, some people may be fearful of Neil having therapy sessions with our clients. But I'm like, here's the reality. If your mind's not in a good place, then work isn't going to be performing. So I'd rather help you get your mind sorted. And then when you're in a good place, watch what will happen to that person. And I've seen it time and time and time again. So this is why sales is hella stressful. But life is as equally as stressful and a lot of things happen. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that I see a lot of leaders that they don't ask about that because sometimes it's just work. We shouldn't talk personal. I personally always do that. And thanks also that I got leaders that did that with me and taught me that. And I think, first of all, obviously, you gotta understand if someone personally is good or no. I speak from myself coming back after everything. I couldn't take a no. A cold call no was the biggest thing for me. And right now, there is one good thing. I'm almost rejection bulletproof because nothing, it will be worse than that. Yeah. And that made me my sales game. Okay, it's a no. Everything good goes on. I can drink my water and I can drink my coffee. It is totally different. My mindset is totally right now. I'm still going through, but rejection is almost zero for me.
Yeah.
It could be a rejection, but doesn't mean a thing for me. And that's super important. And understanding the mental health, but not only that, I would just add the motivation part. There are a lot of leaders that think we are all money oriented or company oriented. You gotta do that checkup when you are hiring an SDR, an AE, whatever. You gotta understand what motivates. Typically, salespeople, obviously, it is hitting targets, the money that comes within, but there is more into that. There are leaders and people that really care about the others and move those. So I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
100%.
It's not just about the coaching, the training. It's also about the motivation and the mindset part. Yeah, definitely.
100%. And there is a lot of great leaders out there that are in tune. Yeah. I've had a lot that I've either called them my sales mom or my sales dad that have helped me through tough times. And as I said, with my sales coach, when I was going through, and I'm still going through that period with my father, they're so understanding and it just makes you feel like, okay, cool. I don't have to hide this. It really does help. But yeah, mindset is the key thing for anyone before you can go into the other things of work or life with that, right? So again, very proud of you, seeing what you're doing with your freaking you're fucking living life, and that makes me really happy because life is very limited, as we all understand as we start getting older, right? But yeah, this is I've completely lost my next question because this is really motivated me as well. But I think where we as people going through these experiences and stuff like that, I think these are the things that build. So this is where I'm coming to it. Yeah, it's that when you've been through that, when you get the rejection and cold calls and sales and stuff like that, it doesn't really hit you because you've gone through harder things. So
Exactly.
like 2 examples I can share that have happened is I was in Paris a month ago where I was doing a sales kickoff with a whole bunch of people from in Paris, and we were doing like an objection handling exercise. And normally what I do is before I ask you to do the role play, I show myself doing it. So I put myself on the firing line. So I said to this one rep, Jose, I think, yeah, it was Jose or Leonardo, where I said, you can hit me with the objection and I will try to handle it. And the idea was you give me one objection and I handle it. But he then got into character and he was throwing every objection and he was getting more like angry. He was getting more like in a playful way, like in the role play. He's like, well, so no, I don't want to have this. And no, I'm not interested. And I'm in front of like 20 people in a room in Paris, which I've never been. And I don't know any of these people. And he's hitting me. And I'm handling it. And then we finish. And then when we stop, everybody starts clapping. And I was just like, fuck, that was intense. And then I kind of said, as the sales coach in me, I said, so tell me one thing that you like and then one thing you would do different. And everybody just said, you were so calm. And he was like hitting you. And he even said, like, I kind of felt like I went a bit too intense. I was like, yeah, you did. But he just said, like, how do you remain so calm? Like, normally, if someone said that to me on the phone, I'd just put the phone down. And what I wanted to say to him out loud is that I've been through tougher things and tougher, horrible people in my life on a personal level. That's why I can stay calm. So when I meet business people or, you know, if things aren't ever like I was talking to somebody 2 weeks ago where they really tried to like challenge me on a Zoom where when I met them for the first time, and basically what they were trying to do is saying to me that they've researched me and they think I'd be a great SDR for their company. I was like, you've done your research. I've been in last time I was in SDR was like 15 years ago. Like, why would I? And then he just starts saying the market cap and all the potential. And I was like, okay, I can understand why you've come to that conclusion, but can I just quickly show you a slide of what I've done? And they're like, oh, but it's staying calm and not like reacting to it. And another one was from my music days. I posted a video of my best friend, one of my best friends, Seb Knowles, who was a DJ, aka Sparky B, who passed away in an accident a few years ago. And that happened when I was an SDR manager. I remember getting the call in London, and it effed me up for a very long time. And it actually stopped me working in music because I couldn't see myself doing it without him. But I posted a video online in the morning yesterday when I had some free time. And I finished the video, put it up onto TikTok, and then I was watching it back, and all of a sudden I just started crying and bawling my eyes out. And I was like, oh shit, I haven't felt like this in like 5 years. And it was just because I was happy to see him on the video, us working together again and all of this, and it brought up a lot of memories. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I had a coaching call in 10 minutes later. So I had to kind of like wipe my eyes, grab my breath for a minute, and then I went outside into my living room. Then I was just looking out the window and I said, Seb, love you, man. That was fucking awesome. We used to have a wicked time together. And then I got into my coaching call and I'm all fine now. And the guy says to me, like, how are you, Neil? And I'm like, yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah,
but it's taking that time to think, and again, that comes through going through those tough experiences. So I think those tough experiences are things that build us. But yeah, man, like life is mad.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone, it will come with a tough experience. I think when you have been through that, rejection comes easier, especially with sales and everything. And as long as you do the things that you like, for you, it's like the coaching, you can feel that thing like coming back to life. For me, it's more like setting up meetings, getting that deal and everything. I can feel like the breathing coming again.
Yeah, 100%. It's the things that bring you energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
100%. But it's been an absolute privilege. I've waited so long for this, and I'm so happy that we're here. And I think it was good for us to like everything happens for a reason. Everything takes a time, but it was beautiful to have you on the show. And I guess a question I like to ask all of my guests is, if you could go back to that young Inez who was in that college and she was doing coffee, selling, volunteering, if you could give her 3 bits of advice, what would those 3 bits of advice be to her?
I think the first one would be trust yourself. Even when we are doubting, things will work out. The second one would be focus on the inputs, forget about the outputs. I used to get like so anxious just about it. And right now I'm like, okay, I know I got to do this cold call. I know I got to hit the gym this time. Let's do it. The outputs, it would come. And I used to get so anxious just about, I have to achieve that. And probably the third one, I'm thinking about it, I would say just trust everything. It will work out. Let it flow and do it that way. And don't worry too much if you didn't find like your purpose, if you're not sure what to do with your life, just do it and things will come. We will start realizing what is going good, what is going bad, and we will adapt.
I love that. Basically, just take that jump like you did. Just say the yes.
And mine is all about confidence and taking jumps.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And again, a big thank you to all of our listeners and watchers for joining on this epic chapter. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a freaking epic chapter. And a big ask is obviously connect with Inês on LinkedIn. Her profile will be in the show notes if you want to pick her brains, ask her about any of the topics we've discussed today. And if you're listening to this in our local podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, wherever it is in the world that you're listening, make sure that you give us a rating and perhaps share this episode with somebody that you feel should listen to it and it could help them. And again, if you're watching us on the YouTube to help us with the algorithm gods, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe down below. And the reason for that is the bigger reach that we can have, we can get Inês episodes out to more people so they can learn, they can be inspired, same way I am here today, and hopefully you have been as well. But Inês, as always, it's a privilege and a pleasure to see you. I wish you a beautiful weekend, happy selling, and bon dia.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for having, and thanks everyone for listening in.